Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morgan, Roth the Motor City Madmouth. What a great crew we have tonight. And we even have a new member of our crew. And we're going to give her a moment to introduce herself in just a second. First and foremost, let me give you an idea what the agenda is. We're going to talk about what's wrong with the Yankees because they're not where the Phillies and the Astros are. And we're going to talk about Bruce Bochy, the new manager of the Texas Rangers, Dusty Baker, talk about some interim managers that got the full-time gig and World Series prediction. With that said, I want to introduce the newest member of our family here today is Jonna Perlinger. She goes by JP. Jonna, welcome aboard. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm
So,
thrilled to be here.
well, why don't you give us a little information about yourself, young lady?
Yeah, so I was born into a big diehard Yankees family, and so I pretty much did not have a choice. But I don't think I would have wanted a choice. I grew up in the 90s in that dynasty era, so go Yanks. And that's why I'm here today. I'm a diehard Yankees and baseball fan.
Well, this is
Thanks
definitely the
for
right.
having me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's the right show for you to be on. If you're primarily baseball, we always look for new talent throughout our network, and you'll definitely fit in nice here. We really run a loose ship. We want to make sure everybody has a good time, still provide a lot of information for all those that are tuning in that are regulars. And to me, that's the most enjoyable part of what we do here is bring on new talent, come up with fresh topics. Before I go deeper, I want to let everybody know to subscribe to the South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel or visit www.southfloridatribune.com and the advertise call 954-304-4941. The audio portion of the show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. If you have a hard time finding it from the website, no problem. Go to youtube.com, look for South Florida Tribune, and just subscribe. Very easy. Plus, we have a lot of great videos from the Baseball Hall of Fame when I had a chance to go with my wife earlier in August. So we have a lot of great baseball inventory, and I've worked with Don Mattingly as well. So I, once again, baseball, we have inventory from everywhere, but considering I've covered baseball longer than any other sport, I'm definitely heavy into the diamond doings for sure. But that said, Will Vogel, I know last night you had a good time watching a boxing match on our network.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I did, and I think the better guy got the win.
Uh-huh. You know who
Uh-huh.
that is.
Yeah, okay. Well, all right, Mr. Uh-huh, you know who that is. Eric Katz is the reason why we're fortunate to have JP. Eric,
Yes.
welcome back for round two this week.
Yeah, great to be here. Hopefully we have a fun evening. No Mancini here to put in his place, but yeah, it's still gonna be a fun evening.
And last but not least, Jordan Long. Welcome back, Jordan.
Thank you. Although I'm surrounded by Yankees fan, I almost should wear my Cubs fan or Rockies gear just to feel a little bit better. But you know what? It's all good. I'm happy to be here with all of them.
Well, all I can tell you is I'm king of the road.
Yeah, you really are. You are literally and figuratively.
Yeah, oh, no doubt about it. I did, Jonna, before we go into the show here deeper, I had an opportunity to drive over at Homestead Miami Speedway and took around 11 laps around there. It was pretty cool stuff. And I like to drive all over the country. So when I say I'm king of the road, I really am king of the road. Am I bragging about it? No, but I do enjoy driving. It's a great source of meditation for me to clear my head a little bit. Get a lot of thoughts. You never know what can come on my brain over a long period of time. Listen to some good music. But that said, okay, we're going to break Jonna in immediately. Jonna, question for you. What's wrong with the Yankees?
They're too analytical. They rely on the analytics too much instead of just doing things the old school way. Watch the game. I feel like us as fans, we see things that they don't because they're just too fixated on like stats, analytics. And so I think that's the biggest issue. And that's from the top down. Brian Cashman, and I think Hal has way too much trust in Brian because he doesn't know enough about the game. And so I think he relies on Cashman. And then Cashman's got all into this analytic thing. And, Boone's kind of their little puppet. And he buys into the analytics too. And so I don't know. I think it's the whole front office that's an issue right now. Although I don't really understand why the guys didn't perform. I don't know how you go into the ALCS and you're not excited to be there. Like, why? How can you not get fired up? And you're playing the Houston Astros. Like, they own us the last several years, 5 years. So it's like, I don't know how that's not enough to get them like fired up to perform. So I don't know. A lot of
So,
issues.
so how do you see the managerial situation playing out, Jonna? Do you think they're going to keep Boone, or do you think they might take a shot and let him go and bring on Don Mattingly?
I mean, I would love to say that they'll make some changes, but I mean, I've just seen this go around too many times, and I feel like nothing's going to change there. I'm afraid that Cashman and Boone are here to stay for a while at least. But that's my take. But that's not what I hope for. But I'm just being realistic. I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, I know, having worked with George Steinbrenner in the past, I worked with him on a couple of occasions back in the day, long before any of you guys were born. And George Steinbrenner is a type of guy that, to me, if he felt that his squad wasn't getting he doesn't hesitate to make changes. In fact, you know what, Jonna, since you're the new person here tonight, let me give you a story about what happened when I was covering the Fort Lauderdale Yankees. I caught George Steinbrenner there, asked him a lot of questions, but when I brought the managerial question up, cut the interview off. Luckily, I got all of what I needed anyways. It didn't matter. And he cut it off. He didn't care. That was one question he wasn't going to address with anybody, let alone a young guy like me. Now, the good part about the whole thing is he treated everybody equally. So when he went on Nightline with Ted Koppel, Koppel did the same thing as I did. George Steinbrenner said, "We're done." And he chewed Ted Koppel out. So we're talking ABC News Nightline, and Ted Koppel got George Steinbrenner's wrath just like I did. So, whether it's myself or Ted Koppel, George Steinbrenner was one of those kinds of guys that didn't hesitate to make a change because he wanted to win in the worst way, spent money and developed his players in the farm system and used them as tradable assets to get more established players. There were a few that made it to the big leagues, like the Don Mattingleys that he did keep and the Derek Jeters, but there weren't many. A lot of them were actually tradable. And I remember I made some good friends with the Yankees back in the days. I'll never forget a guy by the name of Jose Rio, Rex Hudler. In fact, former trainer Kevin Rand was with the Tigers for a while, started his career out with the Yankees. So the list goes on. And the relationships that I've had throughout my time with the Yankees, not only the minor leaguers, with a lot of the players I interviewed, were pretty unbelievable, especially at that time. And I know, Johnny, you've heard of Stump Merrill, right?
Mm-hmm.
I worked with him with the Fort Lauderdale Yankees and I did an interview with him, I think recently, a couple of years ago, over at George Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. And Stump was great to work with, especially with me being a young writer learning the ropes. So, as I said, the list goes on and on. So that's your take on the Yankees. So let's go ahead and, Eric, give me yours.
I think at this point they are just trying to copycat the Rays in their analytical approach. The difference between the Rays and the Yankees is payrolls are astronomically different. Yeah, I think, and as Dusty Baker said, you have to be both. You have to be able to, obviously play the numbers, but at the same time, it's a feel game too, where if you know a guy is going to get the guy, you trust that guy knowing that he's going to get the job done. And that's something the Yankees have failed to do. I know that they decided to pull Cole a little early. Granted, the bases were loaded, but I don't think the situation would have been much better instead of putting Lou Trevino, who's not a high leverage guy, and then he absolutely gets shellacked, which all those were credited to Garrett Cole just because he put the runners on. But still, Trevino put it right in there, and boom, the Astros struck, and we got absolutely destroyed that game 5-0, which was probably the most embarrassing game of the series.
Okay. All right. Jordan?
Well, let's put it this way. You guys didn't have base hits. You couldn't get the timely hits. I'm looking at Aaron Judge. Your best hitter throughout the regular season hits .063 with an on-base percentage of .118. I mean, that's the problem in this series. The Yankees didn't have the timely hits. Houston did. yes, we can point at Aaron Boone, switching pitchers and all that, but at the time though, same time, you still have to have the base hit. You have to smack the ball. And honestly, the Astros did a lot better of a job than the Yankees. Now, the Yankees have a lot of questions in the offseason. Are they going to re-up with Aaron Judge? He's going to be a free agent. That'd be a huge loss, especially in the outfield and in the lineup. I still think Aaron Boone's going to be safe for another year or two, but if he does not make it past the NLCS, he will be fired because the Yankees, of course, you guys know what's the one thing they want? A World Series ring. And if you can't bring that to New York, then you're gone.
All right. Well,
All of you guys proved great points. Jonna, Eric, Jordan. The front office is just kind of a problem. Cashman, Boone, those guys, as much as I want to see them gone, like Jonna said, it's the same roundabout. They're probably going to be coming back again next year, whether we like it or not. I'm not a huge fan of bringing him back. I would love to see Mattingly in charge. With that being said, you can't. I know the saying goes, chicks love the long ball, but guys, you need to get base hits. You can't always swing for the fences, or else you're going to strike out 100% of the time. Also, Yankees baseball is World Series or bust almost every year, I feel like, for the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be. There's some other guys I think that need to move. They need to move on from. In my opinion, I think Kiner Falefa is expendable. Chapman is off the books. I think
Right.
Donaldson is way past his prime.
Yeah.
I think Hicks is way past his prime. And I think you need to move on from those guys. Say thank you, but no thank you. And if just that was embarrassing. Getting swept in the ALCS. You make it that far. Sure, you didn't get a lot of rest between the series between Cleveland and Houston, but that's no excuse. Baseball is a game of competitive edge, and the Yankees just looked flat every single game. Like, sure, Rizzo played well, Bader played well, Judge played Stanton played Cole played good, Nestor played okay, but still, like, we can't get, as Yankee fans, we can't get accustomed to, we're going to go to the ALCS and lose to the Astros yet again, year after year and year after year and year after year. You have to get over that hump by making changes, whether it's upper management or it's the players or both. So, like I said, I would love to see Boone gone. I would love to see Cashman gone. I would also like to see those players gone. So, yes. And re-sign Judge is a must. Changes need to be made if you want to take the next step.
yeah, I as far as the Yankees are concerned, to me, I'm with you, Jonna. To me, the Astros had their number, and to not win a game against the Astros, even the Seattle Mariners put up a better fight against the Astros than the Yankees did. And when you think about, to me, how important it is that the Mariners, when they lost they lost their games. They lost one in 18 innings, right? Not only did they lose one in 18 innings, Jordan Alvarez bit them twice.
Yeah.
Those were competitive games, but the Yankees were just not as competitive against the Astros. And yeah, there's no doubt changes are going to have to be made. And what I'll do is I'll go over, John, when you come back again. I'm planning on you coming on back. We're going to break down the Yankees free agents. How's that sound for you? Okay.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, we'll do that next Tuesday night. But because the World Series is starting, I want to make sure we get that in there as well. But we'll do that next week. But the reality of the situation is you got to be more competitive than 4-0 against the Astros. One thing that they have your number, but the reality of the situation is, you know what, you got to do a lot better. Justin Verlander has always had the Yankees number, even when he dates back to the time when he was with the Detroit Tigers, and the Tigers ousted the Yankees during a couple series as well.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, well, I am reminding you. Okay, remember, I'm not Mancini. I'm your daddy. Okay.
Well, I can't battle against you because I actually like you. I know Mancini's not. Mancini is like Mancini. I hammered into the
I
ground.
know we don't have to reiterate. We know. I've been getting text messages all day from this guy about last night, so I'm not worried about. I'm the one who gets it all, not you. Okay, you can go out there and take your sledgehammer that you got from the hardware store and do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And if I ever saw an odd couple on the air, you and him were definitely it. So Tony Randall and Jack Klugman got replaced by Eric Katz and Mark Mancini. But he thrives, whether you know it or not, though. Eric, you think you can show this guy up? He thrives on it.
I know.
So he doesn't care.
I know.
I mean, as long as he's like I am. We're old school. Whether you think you got the best of us in a confrontation or not, we've still been around a long time and we feed off this stuff. I've worked with a lot of other people that think they got me on the ropes. But see, once upon a time, John, I'll bet you've heard of a guy by the name of Muhammad Ali, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I interviewed him back in the 80s, and I had one of those jaw photos there. And if a picture's worth 1,000 words, that was it. So I played the rope-a-dope against a lot of people that think they have me. Then you come on strong, and then you go out there and realize, hey, you know what? Lay here and take your best shot until I come back, and then we go back and forth. It's not an ego kind of thing. Really, what it is, that in life, what you try to do is make sure you just listen, learn, and then respond is all you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the only lesson I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say anybody's better than the other, because whoever commits to these shows, to me, I'm always grateful because they take their time to put themselves out there. And the main thing is it's about entertaining and information. So, and that's what we strive here. And if I told you, if I find good young talent, I will bring them on all day long. And that's what it's all about. I mean, I could never have met any of you for many years ago without the benefit of the astronauts going out there, putting a few satellites, and all of a sudden, hello, internet. Look what we have here. So,
yeah.
So, but I don't want to go any further with that. The next topic of the night, John, I don't know if you're comfortable talking about it, but we'll kind of throw it at you anyways. The Texas Rangers hired three-time World Series winner Bruce Bochy, who's 67 years of age. He missed the game. I guess, John, you could appreciate a guy that would miss a game that would want to make a comeback, wouldn't you?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce is he's a heck of a manager. He won 3 titles with the Giants, worked that long. Any other thoughts about Bruce at all? Do you think he would be? I don't think you know much about him, but I'm kind of surprised that the Yankees. He could manage anywhere. This guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I can appreciate a guy that's been in the game for a really long time, and I mentioned this earlier, but I feel like it's the older generation that maybe they aren't too analytical. Like maybe they just understand the game and rely on their own knowledge more than they do on a computer. So I can appreciate that in a guy that wants to come back into the game. And I think the Rangers need to make a change. And so power to them.
Yeah. There's a term called baseball lifer, Jonna, and there's a lot of those around. And I've dealt with a lot of them, both on all levels, guys that just, once you leave as a player, you move on to managing, coaching, scouting, and whatever. And some only turn into broadcasters. And Bruce Bochy figured, well, I've had enough playing golf, enough doing the honeydew list, whatever. I'm going to go back in the dugout and go from there. So, all right, Eric, what are your thoughts about the hiring of Bruce Bochy for the Rangers?
I mean, I love Bochy. I mean, a great guy overall, but let's face the reality of it. This either is going to work or it's not. We saw what happened with Tony La Russa in Chicago. Right. This is either going to work or it's not. I mean, I think ultimately just the way that Bochy is, I think he can kind of relate to everybody as to where La Russa was very singular in his focus. I mean, he didn't. I think what he failed to realize was these aren't his St. Louis Cardinal teams being patrolled by Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright keeping everybody in check. But this is either going to work or it's not. But personally, I want it to work. But But, again, it's just going to come down to, the fit, and it's going to come down to whether Bochy can adjust to the modern game, because there comes a point in time where the game just passes you by.
All right, and we have a comment in the chat room that I put on the screen coming from Arjun, Marcel, Samlal. Thank you very much for commenting in here. It says, thanks very much for sharing, Michelle. Interesting podcast. Well, thank you very much for those individuals that take the time to get involved and take a look in here. And that we hope that if you like what you see, you'll subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, because I have a lot of talented analysts on this show. So again, Arjun, thank you so much for coming in the chat room. We really appreciate you a lot. Okay. So with that said, Jordan, Bruce Bochy.
I honestly agree with Eric. It's either going to work or it's not. But if you look at it, this was a smart move by the Rangers in this regard. He has 25 years of experience for the Padres and the Giants. His overall record, I mean, you can throw it away. He's managed 2,003 wins and lost 2,029 wins. But let's face it, he earned a playoff spot 8 times and 4 trips to the World Series. Of course, 3 of those ended up with World Series wins with the San Francisco Giants. The thing is the Rangers are looking at the long run. They want to be a consistent playoff team. That's why you bring Bruce Bochy in. The Rangers haven't made the playoffs since 2016. I like the move, brings experience, but like Eric said, it's either going to work or it's not, just like Tony La Russa.
All right, well,
these guys read my mind. It's either going to work or it's going to be a Tony La Russa. I love Bochy. Bochy led those fun Giants teams to World Series teams with Tim Lincecum, Matt Cain, Buster Posey. Just those were fun teams to watch. And he's managed for a while. He has over 2,000 wins. And you got an interesting Texas team where you got Marcus Semien and you have Seager, which will hopefully turn around their seasons and maybe put up better numbers, and maybe with Bochy under the helm, they could get to a few more wins. So, yeah, it's definitely an interesting hire. It's a good hire because this guy has seen the game for many, many years, and at all different generations, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and now we're in the 2020s. So this guy definitely has the experience, and yeah, I think it's a very underrated good hire.
Well, I'll just say this about Bochy. He had success in San Diego, and he had it with the Giants. And I see no reason to think that won't continue with Texas. They needed a stabilizing veteran manager, and I believe I was kind of caught off guard by the hire. I really, really, really was, because I didn't know if he wanted to come back. But when I heard that hire took place, I do believe that the Texas Rangers actually made out. Now, I got to tell you guys a story, okay, about the Rangers. 1987, I worked in baseball for the Gastonia Rangers, and we lost 90-some games as a director of public relations. But you know who was on that team? Go ahead, take a guess.
Bruce Bochy. Was that the same time you were?
Sosa?
Yeah, there you go.
Sammy Sosa?
Yeah, there you go. No, Bochy
You
wasn't
told
on
me
there.
this.
Oh, well, I did. That means your retention's awfully good, so don't say anything and let the rest of them.
I forgot he was with the Rangers.
What? Sorry, Scott. What year were you saying that this was?
1987, Jonna.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked with Juan Gonzalez, Sammy Sosa, Wayne Rosenthal, and we had like 9 or 10 major leaguers, including managers, and it was unbelievable for a 90-loss squad, Jonna. We did. And, I think what was so interesting about it later on is when Dean Palmer was another guy on that team. I could go over the list. I don't need to. I'm only going over the bigger ones. But I'll never forget the time that I was covering a Marlins-Cubs game. And I told the Cubs PR I wanted to talk to Sammy. She didn't let me do it. So what I did is I took advantage of my credential being on the field, and I started screaming out, "Hey, Sammy, remember me?" Oh, he gives me a smile as wide as Canada. Oh, he remembered, because Sammy and I used to hang out and used to joke around. Me and his PR guy at that time said, "All right, listen, Sharon, I did what you did back then, okay? And he was my guy, and now he's yours. Now, don't you believe, okay, that I want to talk to my guy? And then Sosa, I mean, he kept smiling at me right in front of this woman, I swear. So then she agreed to give me a one-on-one with him in the locker room the next day. It worked out well. And I had him all to myself in the locker. I shook his hand, we gave hugs, and I couldn't take a picture at the time. I didn't have anybody there to do it. I didn't have a camera phone, but it doesn't matter. It's still a great memory to tell each and every one of you guys, especially as I bring up, even though Will Vogel doesn't forget anything I tell him, but at least he's got a good
Wait, what was that again?
Yeah, he doesn't forget anything I tell him is what he doesn't. So, but the reality is, it was good. Like I said, when you've been around baseball, so I've seen it on both the admin side as well as a part of the media, and much less the fact that I played it for 6 years and I was a catcher myself. So I used to go out there and have a lot of fun talking to the umpires, getting in their ear. I would go out there and do mound visits with my pitcher. I would go out there and talk in the batter's ear and tell him he wasn't any good. And if the umpire didn't give me the call that I won, I got out of the way and he got hit right in the chest protector if it went fast, to get anything I could do to get an edge. But no, I got along good with a lot of umpires, but I was a pretty loud kid back then trying to get an edge then. Again, no, but this shows you how important that the catcher position is in terms of how you produce managerial candidates. But getting back to Bochy, he was a great hire, and I just thought with you, with all y'all, I wanted to incorporate this Rangers story as well. But Sammy Sosa, Juan Gonzalez, Gene Palmer, Gino Canahia, and there were like Wayne Rosenthal was a good reliever.
Nolan Ryan.
Who?
Nolan Ryan.
No, he wasn't on that team.
Not yet. Okay.
Nolan Ryan, what are you talking about? He was nowhere near it.
But, never mind. Later.
Yeah, that's okay. But that's my Ranger story. All right, well, let's talk about a guy who's seeking to win his first World Series as a manager. All right, John, I don't know why I like keep coming back to you, but I'm going to do it anyways, okay? Do you think Dusty Baker will retire if the Astros win the World Series?
Mm-mm.
You don't? Okay.
No, I don't. I think he's been really successful, and I think he's like really, and I think he's really like settling into the role there with the Astros, and I don't know, they've gone on a good run, and I could see them going on like more good runs. So I don't know. I don't see him retiring yet.
I believe he's 71 years old. I think he's having more fun with the game. I think one of the things that helps your case out there with your comments is the fact that the Astros really appreciate him. And he walked into a tough situation with AJ Hinch where he had to clean out that mess. And when he was able to stabilize things a little bit, the Astros fans can really appreciate a guy who's been around a long time. But the only thing he hadn't done is win a World Series, done everything else though.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just feel like he's kind of like managed to. I mean, I know the Astros are still the most hated team, but like, who couldn't respect and love Dusty Baker? So I feel like he's managed to somehow turn their image around a little bit, at least with respect to their management. So I don't know. I think he'll keep going.
Okay, that's fair. All right, Eric.
First off, I love Dusty Baker. I just, you've seen his managerial career bloom before our eyes and how successful he's been everywhere he's gone. The only place you could probably say where he had the roughest of times was probably with the Cubs. And, part of that was the heartbreak there. But that's besides the point. He's been successful everywhere he's gone. He's taken teams to the playoffs, and he's been able to have all that success. The only thing missing on that resume is a World Series ring, which will for sure put him in the Hall of Fame. Do I see him retiring? Not really. I mean, this is as fun and loose as I've ever seen him in every place he's gone. I think with this job, he's had the most fun he's ever had. To JP's point. I personally, the guy's having fun right now. If the guy's enjoying what he does, just let the hummingbirds continue to sing.
Yeah, things unfortunately though, Eric, didn't end well in Washington either. I think he really got hosed there. So with that said, Jordan, why don't you pick up?
Well, like Eric said, I mean, in Chicago, so close as a lifelong Cubs fan in 2003. Yeah. No one blames, and Bartman. They blame Dusty Baker did make some questionable decisions in that series against the Marlins, especially game 7 when we had the lead, but that's not here nor there. But the thing is would I like to see Dusty Baker retire? Yes, because you go out as a champion. But like you guys are saying, he's having so much fun. Why not do it again? I could definitely see him returning for one more year, especially if they win it.
Well, from what I hear with Astros management, they're saying he can stay as long as he wants. That's how much he's really loved and revered there. Well, that said, Will Vogel.
Yeah, there's two weighing options, but you know what? Like everyone said, how could you hate Dusty Baker? He's the first African American manager to win over 2,000 wins, and he's been denied from the Cubs. He's managed so many teams like the Reds, the Cubs, I think he was in charge of the Giants at one point.
Yes, he was.
Yep.
He's been in charge of a lot. Washington. He's been in charge of some decent to good to some bad teams, and I think that if he gets this Hall of Fame ring, yes, he definitely is a lock for the Hall of Fame. I personally thought even if he didn't get a ring, he could still be a lock. But if he does get one, he is 100% a lock for the Hall of Fame. And like Eric said, this guy is 71 years old, and he is having the most fun out of anybody in baseball right now. I know that Phillies are on cloud 9 because they made the World Series as a wild card, but Dusty Baker, as much as of a Yankee fan I am, I saw the video of him getting the ALCS championship trophy. He was like giddy, he was happy, he was clapping, he was celebrating with his team. He was not like some old managers who are like, okay, on to the next one, whatever. We won the ALCS. On to the next one. The World Series is coming up. No, he was celebrating. He was happy. He was positive. Of course, you want a game plan for the next team you have to play, but it's called living in the moment. When are you going to get back to this World Series? When are you going to win that championship series next? And this guy is full of life, energy, enthusiasm. And at one point, I was like, oh, maybe he should retire for this year because he's pretty old. He's managed a long time. But you know what? This guy's on cloud 9. Why stop now? Don't stop now. Keep it going. Let the party ride. Maybe, and I would hate this as a Yankee fan, but maybe turn this Astros team into like a dynasty, like win maybe 3 more World Series.
Right.
But this guy's just on cloud 9. So if don't stop the party until the music stops.
I think also another point is I think Dusty has become a better manager since coming over to Houston, and all because number one, he's managing the pitching staff and bullpens better than he ever has. He used to pitch arms into the ground. Jordan could probably attest to this because I remember this very well growing up. He would pitch Rob Nen's arm into the ground. He destroyed Kerry Wood into a reliever. He demolished Mark Pryor's career, and he destroyed Edison Volquez's arm to the point it wasn't the same. I think he's ultimately become a better manager as he's gotten older, and also since coming over to Houston.
And also, when he went to Houston after AJ Hinch's debacle with the cheating scandal, you knew him coming in, he wouldn't stand for BS. He literally probably went into that locker room and said, I don't want any of this cheating BS. If I see any sign of it, I know I'm not the owner, but you are off my team immediately. I'm in charge. I've been in the major leagues for 20 plus years. You are going to listen to me now, and we are going to put in some work.
Well, here's the thing, too. Keep in mind, he took that team to the playoffs again amidst all the distraction. That team could have very easily folded. The guy literally that offseason, after AJ Hinch and Jeff Lunau were fired, it was a situation where he walked into an in-ground hornet's nest and was able to stabilize it.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a respectable guy, too. Like, I think, they couldn't have chosen a better guy for that role in that moment because everybody trusted him and respected him. And I don't know if you guys saw that Aaron Boone was waiting outside of
Mhm.
his locker room the other night, but
Did
like
see that.
even Boone respects him. So yeah, I think they made the right call there, and I think they'll keep him as long as he'll keep coaching. But I don't see why, like when you're on a good run, why you would want to jump out of it.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, great points, John. I'm glad that you brought up the Aaron Boone meeting with
Yeah,
Baker.
that was awesome.
That was beautiful.
Excellent
Yeah,
point.
I respected that a lot.
Well, I
Even though,
respect the
even
fact
with my dislike of the Astros, that really warmed my heart.
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
no, I agree.
that point slipped my mind, but I'm glad that you had a chance to bring that up and bring it to light.
Fun fact is when Aaron Boone was with the Reds, when he had his only All-Star year prior to him getting traded to the Yankees, Dusty Baker selected him to be on the team and actually played him, and he didn't have to. That's where part of that respect comes from.
I did not
Yeah,
know that.
thanks for bringing that up too.
Which, hey, he still had his home run though in New York, and then we got A-Rod out of it.
Yeah, you know, I think that home run deal, like that's like what I don't know if that's what the Yankees front office is holding on to. Like you bailed
are.
our
Oh,
aces
they are.
out.
are.
So like
They
they're
are.
giving him a longer
JP,
run than
they
they
are.
should.
Had
They
Boone not hit the home run, he would not even be sniffing New York. That's why Bucky Dent back in the day got the job there, was because of the home run against the Boston Red Sox.
Boone doesn't hit
Yep, I
that
agree.
home run. He's not in New York history.
He's reporting. He's still reporting, right? Like he's not coaching at all.
He's not, especially with the bullpen.
Right?
All right.
Although as injured as they were.
All right. With that said, let's go on to interim managers who earn full-time jobs. We'll break them down one by one. Bill Nevin, Angels 1-year deal, 2023. John Schneider earned it the hard way in Canada in that division. Blue Jays 3-year deal. Includes a team option that'll run through 2026. Bob Thompson, 2-year deal, 2024. Well, that was hardly a surprise. Reality is these guys here, they earned their way to get the interim tag. So with that said, we'll start with you this time. Well, let's talk about each interim manager. Phil Nevin first.
So Phil Nevin was a Yankees coach, and I think, would I say he was the greatest hire? No. Would I would say he's the worst hire? No. He had experience with the Yankees, so it was I think it was a good hire. Sure, the Angels aren't the best in their division, but you got Ohtani and Trout, and they bring people to the stands no matter how bad the Angels are. Who was the second guy? I'm sorry,
John
Scott.
Schneider of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think that was a good one, but you gotta do better than what you did in the playoffs this year. Getting beat by the Mariners. Sure, the Mariners are no slouch, but as the Blue Jays, you were the favorite to win that series. You have Bo Bichette, you have Robbie Ray,
Right.
you have Alec Manoah, you have
Robbie
Vlad
Ray
Jr.
actually was with the Seattle Mariners. So no, you're off with him. And I actually wrote a story on Robbie Ray when he was here at the All-Star game in Miami. So no, they didn't have Robbie Ray, but they were heavily favored to win the series against Seattle.
Yeah,
sure.
they were heavily favored to win the series, and the Blue Jays are a good, young, upcoming team, and you got to do better than you did this year in the playoffs. But you still have to give the guy time. As for the last guy, he's with the Phillies, if I'm not wrong, right?
Thompson. Right.
Yes. Guy took over Joe Girardi, and we love him in New York. We like Joe Girardi.
Mm-hmm.
But he turned that team from struggling, turned that team around. Kyle Schwarber played better. Bryce Harper played better. Nick Castellanos, Zach Wheeler, Nola, JT Realmuto. The list can go on and on. This team was like the last team to sneak into the NL playoff race, and they just shocked everybody. I'm pretty sure, in my opinion, no one really had the Phillies making the World Series. This guy turned this team from struggling into the World Series, and no one saw it happening. So good for him, and I think win or lose, it's deservingly so. If he loses, I can see him with this same contract. If he wins miraculously, they may extend this contract. So, all managers, I think those guys all deserve it.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw 3 interim managers get hired full time in one managing cycle.
No, I can't either.
Yeah, so I'll leave my comments at that, and then we can turn over to Jordan. Go ahead, Jordan.
Well, with Phil Nevin, I mean, like Will said, it's not a bad hire, but there's so many more problems with the Angels than just the manager. And we've talked about it last week. It's it's the management, I should say, the ownership there. Yes, you have Mike Trout, you have O'Shea Otani, but there's so much more that's going wrong there. So I don't think it was a bad hire. As for John Schneider, like Will said, he coached that or managed them to the playoffs. I thought, when the Blue Jays made the playoffs, I even said they were going to win that series in the wild card. Didn't happen. But you know what? He deserves at least another year or two. As for the Phillies, the Will can attest to this because he watches the Cubs show on our on the Sideline Sports Network. None of us on that show thought that the Phillies would go that far. They have. Look at who they have. They have Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber. I mean, they have some great talent there. And what do they need? They just needed a manager, and that's where Thompson took them. He won 65 games and lost 46 after they fired Joe Girardi. So there comes as no surprise that he's going to stay around for quite some time. And who knows, maybe next year actually win their division. They don't have to worry about the wild card. But you know what? They have a chance to win a World Series ring. That's all you want.
All right, Eric, pick it up from there.
Well, to start off, I mean, the Angels. I mean, who else were you going to hire? I mean, let's start there. Who else was going to want that job? I'd rank that job like the least desired job in all of baseball. Heck, I'd even put the Marlins ahead of them. They, it was, pretty much a situation where they might as well just stay in house. It's just one of those deals. But obviously Trout's obviously there and Otani's there for right now, so they at least are semi-watchable. But at the same time, who else were you going to hire? Schneider. I thought the Blue Jays could have gone either way, but they decided to keep it the same. But man, you got to show some results. Otherwise, other teams are going to be partying and blowing up Vlad's house very quickly. And then as far as the Phillies go, I mean, hats off to Rob Thompson. I truly love Girardi and for everything he did for the Yankees, but there was coming a point in time where George Girardi has a tendency to wear out his welcome everywhere he goes. We saw it happen in Florida. We also saw it with the Yankees, and now we saw it in Philadelphia, where I really don't think the players were bought in. But Rob Thompson's essentially the more relaxed, non-yelly version of Joe Girardi.
That is true.
And obviously, he had been in manager rumor mills for a while, especially during his time in New York. So, for him to bring him that far, it's just terrific, especially in a tough division that was the NL East this year.
Well, amazingly enough, you talk about Rob Thompson, and I already mentioned when I thought about the hires. His hiring reminds me a little bit of Brian Snitker of the Braves. You talk about guys whose opportunities I thought were overdue. Well, more power to Rob, that he got it, and then more importantly, took advantage of it. I think the last Phillies manager to take him to the postseason was that Charlie Manuel, I believe.
Yep.
It was.
Yeah, he did a really good job.
He led them to the World Series in 09.
Right.
In 08. He was on in 08 and 09.
Yeah, Charlie did a really good job. He did.
Yeah,
so,
he did.
John, any thoughts about this?
Yeah, so I'll just jump in and say that I was pretty bummed to see that 2 ex-Yankees didn't last for the Phillies, and Joe Girardi and Didi Gregorius.
Right.
I was kind of bummed that nobody ever picked him up, but I guess to be determined on his future. But yeah, good for the Phillies. I remember having a conversation with a Phillies fan early in the year, and he was just knocking on Girardi, and I'm like, well, why? I didn't, I wasn't in tune enough at the time to realize like things were just going south there. So good on them. Like they were the biggest surprise of the year, I think, and it's going to be really interesting to see what they do in the World Series. So good for them. I think they'll stick with what they've got. If they keep thriving. I think they're certainly going to give the Astros a better run than we did.
Yes.
And then, the Blue Jays, like Eric, I'm glad you referenced Vlad's house. Supposedly the players really, really like Schneider. So why wouldn't the front office want to stick with them? So it'll be interesting to see how they do. But I agree with Will. Like, you've got to do better. You have to show up in the playoffs. And that one surprised me too. So we'll see what they do. But that's really all I have to say.
Well, let me add something about Joe Girardi. I bumped into him during a Cubs series down here, and I spent time talking to him 5 or 10 minutes, believe it or not, over in the dining area. And we talked. Joe's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And I asked him, "Do you plan to manage again?" He said, "I'd like to, but I'm going to weigh the situation, make sure it makes a lot of sense." And he actually relocated to my neck of the woods in southern Florida. I won't mention the Volge area, but he's probably about 10, 15 minutes away from where I live. So we talked. He's a down-to-earth guy, had success, and I know somebody will hire him at some point, depending what.
I hope so.
Same
I
here.
really hope so too. Like, I love the guy. I really do. Like, obviously the Yankees, we still love and respect him a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a really nice guy, and you know what? More power to him. I do believe that there's another opportunity out there for Joe. But he told me though, he said, "I'm not in any hurry to manage. I don't mind broadcasting. There's a broadcaster for the Cubs now, but he'll resurface. I really do. Just depends, but he'll be selective when he resurfaces as well."
Oh yeah.
I think
I wish the Yankees would have given him like another year or two just to see how it played out.
Boy, the way it sounds though, John, you're probably right, because when you think about it, he is the last Yankees manager to win a World Series, and they haven't won one since. So, John, your points are well taken. Eric, one last thing before we go to World Series predictions.
I mean, first off, love Girardi, loved him as a player, and loved him as a manager. Just a great guy around. I could see it being the type of deal where it becomes a Jim Leland situation, where Jim Leland spends that 1 year in Colorado, it doesn't work out, and then he's kind of out of baseball for a while, wondering what to do. And then the right situation kind of crops up. Leland obviously with the Tigers was just perfect at that point in time, and I think it could be the type of deal where Girardi, because Girardi like Leland is kind of in not rebuild, but he's in win now because he's older, but it could be the type of deal where the perfect job just comes along and the right guy makes the right call.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. All right, let's go on to the final topic of the night: World Series predictions. You know what, John? I'm going to wait for you at the very end. How's that sound? Okay.
That sounds good.
Well, Vogel, give me yours.
It's going to be a hard-fought one. I think the Phillies are going to give a fight to the Astros. But as much as this pains me to say, I think the Astros are a little too tough, and they've got a few more pitchers. It's a great matchup. You got Wheeler, and you got Nola, and you got Verlander, Valdez, McCullers, but I've got Astros in 6. If I had to pick a World Series MVP for just fun, Yordan Alvarez was on a tear this postseason. I've got Yordan Alvarez. He's got, as much as I hate this as a Yankee fan saying this, and I've heard on the TV, he's got Big Poppy vibes on me. So I've got Astros in 6 with Yordan winning World Series MVP.
I'll turn it over to you, Jordan.
I will say both teams are incredibly good. The batting average are almost similar in this postseason. The edge goes to the Astros in this sense. They haven't lost a game, but if you look at their bullpen, their ERA is .82 and haven't blown a save.
Oh.
I really would like to see this series go 7, but I'm with Will there. I have the Astros in 6 just because I think their pitching is better. Like Will said, Yordan Alvarez, big time hitter, guys. The Phillies have Schwarber and they've got Bryce Harper, but you also have better hitters if you look at the Houston Astros. I want it to go 7, but I have the Astros in 6.
You know what's crazy? And they haven't used, I think, Will Smith yet.
No, they haven't.
He's going to see some action.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Eric, give me yours.
Well, as it pains me to say this, I got to go with the Astros in 6, and here's why. That team is complete. one thing I will never put on Girardi for his time in Philadelphia was he never had the bullpen because Dombrowski apparently doesn't believe in bullpens. You know, he thought that, especially the last year of Girardi's reign, that he thought that they could get Corey Knebel, could go back to being Milwaukee Brewers Corey Knebel. Not so much. He is a middle reliever at this point. Ever since he badly blew out his arm, he hasn't been the same. But, you know, the Astros, they have the hitters, no doubt. They can get the hit at the right time. That team, although they haven't impressed people with runners in scoring position, that team is still built to bash. And they're pitching. Oh, they are a loaded gun. They have just about, you know, they have every bullet in that rotation could be an ace. And their bullpen has finally come together, and that bullpen looks unhittable right now. And so I got to go with the Astros in 6. Philadelphia is going to give them a run for the money, but man, the Astros are just loaded.
Okay, John, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, I really would love to play devil's advocate here and go for the Phillies, but I have to agree. I don't see the Astros not winning this thing. And I think it's going to go 6 as well. But, you know, Verlander is just like unstoppable. He has been for years. But
he ages like fine wine.
He
I know,
does.
right?
He's like Nolan Ryan. He's just going to keep going forever.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, though, like, look how closely the Astros played the Yankees in several of those games, and like how. Like, I mean, our starting pitching was pretty solid, but like our bullpen obviously was so depleted.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know how we held them in several of those games to like such low score. So it could get interesting, I guess, but and I think Bryce Harper is just so hungry. Like that guy plays with so much heart. I would love that guy on the Yankees. We immensely screwed up not getting him. So yeah, I think he's gonna have a great series, but I think Will's probably right with Jordan, who's your daddy. And I would love to see him like be the MVP. I don't know if you guys heard, but he didn't get to see his family for like 3 years or something like that. And they just like the Astros, like I have more respect for them after hearing this. They worked really hard to get his family here. His family's here now and they're living with him. So it's like the first time that they've been able to see him. So I think it would be really cool for him to, you know, see that through.
Oh, 100%. But my dark horse MVP for the series has to be Jeremy Pena. That guy.
Yeah. Oh my God. That guy is
ripping. That guy is ripping. That guy is splitting baseballs into everyone's bleachers, and he is just hot right now.
He is. Yeah.
Which he was Carlos the Moron Correa's replacement.
But like, what about Altuve? Like, does anyone see him making a return in the World Series?
Well, that's the amazing thing about the Astros. They have so much dead weight at the top of that lineup that the bottom of the lineup has been coming through, and they are still winning. It is annoying.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll give you my prediction. Everybody went 6, but you know what? I'm going 7, Astros. And I'll tell you why I am going to go 7. The Phillies' bats are too good to let it go any less than that. And you're going to be looking at 2 ballparks that are hitters' parks.
Mm-hmm.
We all know. And you know what? If the Phillies can't get another win out of that lumber company, I don't know what can happen. Bryce Harper can play in any era. Reminds me a lot of Pete Rose. To me, this guy's the most hard-nosed player to play in any era on the planet. I don't proclaim anybody as a Hall of Famer until their career is done. But Bryce Harper, mark my word, didn't win one in Washington. He left a year early. But Tommy Lasorda, the first interview I've ever had in my career, once told me because God delays does not mean that God denies. So take that as a little lesson of words of wisdom. And in Bryce Harper's case, because God delays does not mean that God denies. Now, with that said, I said the Astros in 7, but would it surprise me if the Phillies won the series? No way. Because remember, everybody counted them out against the Cardinals, right?
I feel like there's an NL East edge too.
Well, but
especially
here,
the Braves.
well, let me finish, Eric. Okay, I'm going to take a page out of you with Mancini. Okay, you had your turn, I get mine. Just kidding with you. I had to throw that in there. But with all due respect, they beat the Cardinals, and then they beat the Padres, and who else did they beat? Am I missing some other team, or just mainly and the Braves? Right,
Braves, yeah.
right. So you know what? This team's a team of destiny. They are. So you just never know what can happen. And I mean, I'm predicting the Astros in 7, but to me, it wouldn't surprise me if the Phillies did it in 7. Because here's the thing, underlying point here: the Phillies are on house money. They are on house money. Nobody expected them. And yes, Eric, you made a good point. They're in the National League East, where you had 2 teams that had 100 wins, and they didn't have that many, and yet they're the ones standing at the very end, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
So there you have it. Well, folks, this concludes our broadcast, 108 Sisters Baseball Talk. I am proud to be joined by Will Vogel, Jordan Long, Eric Katz, and Jonna Perlinger. And Jonna, I'm going to tell you, young lady, this was a great first act for you. I am very impressed with what I saw out of you tonight. And, you know, you have earned a spot on this show as well as other ones where you do fit in. So we're really proud that you were able to join us tonight. I thought you did an absolutely dynamite job blending in with us, coming up with your timely opinions where they were necessary. So nice work, young lady. I am really good.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really enjoyed the talk.
Well, all right. So with that said, John, before you go, one of the things we like to do is why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
All right. Well, you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is at 90s Yanks Kid.
Any other social media?
That's it for now.
Okay, well, that's fine. So if you're looking to follow a bright young Yankee fan, Jonna Perlinger is definitely one that you might want to take note of. So we're glad that you're able to join us. Then we'll go around the horn and then we'll call it a night. Okay, Jonna, so hang with us for another minute or two, please. All right, Eric, go ahead. You know the drill.
You can follow me on Twitter at Sports Team News, where I talk everything Yankees.
Okay, and before we go out to everybody else, I'll get our stuff in there one more time. Subscribe to the South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel or visit www.southfloridatribune.com. And the advertise call 954-304-4941. The audio portion of the show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you have difficulties subscribing from the website, just go to youtube.com, look at South Florida Tribune, and then go ahead and then you can subscribe that way. Also, or if you want to email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. Special shout out to Candy Ebling, who does a really dynamite job putting all the shows up there, as well as the content. She does a marvelous job operating everything, and we would have issues being able to do anything without Candy. So good work to Candy. All right, we'll turn over to Will Vogel, and Gordon Long will wrap it up for us.
So you guys can find me on the Sideline Sports Network Monday nights during the season, probably starting in January. I'm on
That's what the rumor is, that we're going to start in January.
Yep. So I'll be on the NBA Carousel hosted by Megan Price. I will be talking about my favorite team, the Charlotte Hornets, in the upcoming Memphis Grizzlies. I also chose them as a team to rep Tuesday nights. You can find me here on 108 Stitches Baseball with Scott, Jordan. Hopefully JP's a full one, time one. And then we got Eric, or we got
Curry.
Rick, yeah.
Curdy. And then we got Thursdays, the Sip Off, hosted by Megan Price and Jahan Phillips. And then Sunday nights, hosted by me, Scott Morganroth, Dom DeRubis, Jay Nelson, and Jacob Christner. We got Basket Bros, which is 2000s and back basketball.
There you have it. All right, Jordan.
So you can find me on Twitter at SportsScoop1. I have a blog that I write Mondays through Thursdays with podcasts on Fridays at sports-scoop.com. I also have my own show on the Sideline Sports Network that I record on Fridays and put on the network on Saturday. Sometimes it's live. It's called Under Review. And it's basically my take of Colorado sports with national sports headlines as well. As for the sideline sports, I have, like Will said, I'm on the NBA carousel. I rep the Denver Broncos, Denver Nuggets on Tuesdays here, 108 Stitches with you guys. On Thursdays, I'm on Eric Fleming's NFL carousel, or excuse me, it's Eric Wilson's NFL carousel, and it's basically we have reps for all NFL teams. I'm the Denver Broncos rep, and sometimes you'll see me on other sideline sports network shows whenever I'm needed.
And of course, our relationship with Sideline Sports, I go on Pundit on Wednesday, and then we bring a lot of their crew over to the Sports Exchange at night. I can't thank JB Ellis enough, Jennifer Matthews Lewis, Eric Wilson, John Scheer, and of course Will and Jordan are on here every week, as well as the rest of their folks out there. Don Rubis, you mentioned him, really good guy. So, and Denzel Snipes, what can I say? He's, again, when you have a working relationship with another network, it's really a great thing here. And that's what it's all about, making sure that we can allow our talent to go over there and vice versa. So really delighted with the relationship that we have there. And once again, John, I can't thank you very much, and we're looking forward to having you on more often. You really did a fine job tonight, so I can't really proud of you.
Thank you so much. I learned, Jordan, just now that we have a lot more in common in sports beyond aside from our baseball choices. I'm a Nuggets fan and a Broncos fan as well. I was a huge Mutombo fan back in the day.
Now that we have a few Denverites in here, I should point out I covered the Super Bowl 33 when the Broncos beat the Falcons, one of the Elway's last games. So I covered it for the Detroit Monitor and got a credential down here in South Florida. It was really a great experience. And then during the post game, the following day, I had an opportunity to ask John Elway a question. And that question being, how did it work out? Did he go to the Baltimore Colts? He wound up at the Denver Broncos. He was happy to hear that question. Gave me a big old Elway smile, and that's all I need. And other people back home in Michigan got a chance to see that. So it's good. I love having representation all over the country as well, and bringing on new people to work together. And you guys were great. So meanwhile, on behalf of Will Vogel, Gordon Long, Eric Katz, and Jonna Perlinger, a.k.a. JP. My name is Scott Morgan, Route the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We'll see you next Tuesday night. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye now.